I'm Rahul, this is Sales Spin. Outbound is not something I do, it's what I breathe. I run School of SDR. We have trained reps now placed across 50 plus SaaS companies, and I'm the guy founders call when they want to build SDR teams that actually work. KK, Payoneer, Epicor, the list is long, the work is real. I also built Blue, an AI coach for reps, because no one else got it right. I sell, I train, I build every single day. This show is not for everyone. It's for the ones still on the phones, still writing cold emails, still figuring out how to hit quota in a system that's broken. You will hear from reps and leaders who are actually doing it, and leaders who have actually been in the seat, not just behind a dashboard. No fluff, no guru talk, just the truth and the tactics. Let's break Outbound open and spin it our way. Welcome back to another episode of Sales Spin. Today's conversation is something I've been dying to have because, let's be honest, most SDR teams are broken and nobody wants to admit it. Joining me is someone who does not sugarcoat it, Tito Bohrt. I hope I got your name right. Tito is the CEO of AltiSales. He scaled outbound teams across continents, built companies from scratch, and called BS on fake productivity long before it became trendy. He's definitely one of my favorite influencers on LinkedIn right now. If you've ever said we'll just hire a couple of SDRs in India or Latam and start outbound, this episode might sting and should sting. But it will also save you 18 months of pain. Tito, man, excited to have you here. Let's jump right in.
Let's do it, man. Thanks for having me. And it's always good to have a conversation with people who didn't grow up in the US, but have spent their careers many times selling into the US, because I was born and raised in Bolivia. And we were having a fun time a few days ago talking about what does it take to build a great SDR team? Can you do it abroad? What are the good things and bad things from those strategies? And I'm excited to go deeper today.
Yeah, I went through your talk from Duke 10 years ago. I'm going to reference that. I'm going to mention that because it's kind of contrary to what we discussed last time. So yeah, definitely let's dive into this. So let's start with the obvious. When you walk into an SDR organization today that's not working, what's the first red flag that hits you?
I mean, there's so many reasons, right? And like in my career, one of the things I like doing is looking at the data. Um, I think sales development is like the team is like a chain. It's the weakest link that kills you. I've seen organizations where like there's just not a calling culture, especially after COVID, because most organizations are working remotely. And it's really depressing for a rep to call and somebody's like, never call me again. And they hang up on you. And like, if you're at home and like you hang up the phone and it's quiet around you, and now you got to get yourself to do the next call, it's hard. When you're in a sales pit or you see more of your peers getting rejected and going after it and continuing, it creates more camaraderie. The other thing that happens, at least if we continue on the idea of the phone, is today's generation has grown up with Instagram and WhatsApp and iMessage all the time on their phones. When I was a kid, up until I was 20 years old, we didn't have WhatsApp. The iPhone was released in 2008. I was graduating high school at that moment. When I was a teenager, I did not text to my friends. Texting was expensive. I would call them from my home phone to their home phone. And sometimes when I was calling, it would be their dad or their mom to pick up the phone. I'd say, hey, this is Tito calling for Jack, right? Like, I was 16, I was having to do that. If you were born in 1995 or later, you didn't experience that. And what that means is that today you would be 30 years old. Holy cow. And like, you haven't cold called. If you're born in 2000, you just graduated college, and your first job is to be an SDR, you got a cold call. You've never even called your friends. You don't talk to nobody on the phone. How are you going to be good on the phones? So the phones have been used a lot less. Now everybody's emailing. And when everybody's emailing and you have email blasting machines, the clay and praise of the world, spray and clays, whatever people want to call it, you are not going to win against an AI machine that can just output email volume like crazy. Unless you do something that the AI cannot do. And what the AI cannot do is many times leave a LinkedIn voice note, make a phone call, leave a good voicemail that's personalized. So there's a lot of reasons why SDR teams can be broken. A lot of people are fake dialing too. Don't get me wrong. About 20% of those SDRs. It's like
Let's talk about that.
yeah, you're gonna make 50 dials. You look at their call logs, and the 50 dials are less than 5 seconds long each, and they finish 50 dials in 18 minutes with a parallel dial. It's like zero connects. It's like I think you just hung up on that.
How common is that really? And I think I saw you have been talking about that lately a lot. Why are leaders not able to catch it, and how often do they catch it, even if they do?
I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, I don't think the SDRs are fake dialing because they're like, I want to cheat my employer and I just want to get paid for doing no work. I also don't think that they are. Some people say they're afraid of the phone. I don't think they're afraid. I don't think like, I don't want to call. I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Like, everybody knows what's the worst case scenario. They just hang up on you. But it's just like, I'm just not skilled, right? I'm just not skilled. If I don't know what it takes to succeed and I haven't been trained, like, I just don't, the task at hand is too hard. This is just psychology, right? If you tell me, Tito, here's the thing, you're going to participate every day, we're going to give you a math test. It is 10 questions about Fourier series and multivariable calculus. And it's easy. It's multiple choice. You just got to circle the answer. Every morning you come to the office, or you can do this remote, you sit at the desk, there's going to be 100 questions, and by the end of the day, you got to circle the right answers. Go. What would I do? I would just guess, dude. I'd be like, A, D, B, A, C, B, D, A. Why? Because, dude, the task at hand is too hard. I took multivariable calculus in college. I don't remember much. I don't want to learn on my own. That sounds hard. And, at the end of the day, they're telling me that the average person gets 20 of these questions right. And if I just guess, I'll probably get about 15. So, like, is there really a big difference? So I think the problem is we're not training the SDRs, but we're also not listening to the calls to see what's happening. And we're not putting the effort as managers. I think it is the managers and the companies that aren't prepared to build great teams. We think you're going to hire a kid out of college, he's going to succeed. Dude, we're being unfair to all these SDRs.
That's bringing me so many questions because one, if you're saying let's say leaders, or let's say whoever is managing the team, the leaders managing the team, they're not listening to the calls. So that raises a fundamental question. Then what are they doing? I mean, where is the time being spent? Is it on strategy? Where do you see the time is being spent if they're not listening to the calls?
I'll tell you what I think the average SDR manager is doing. They're running around chasing their own tail, working on things that aren't the right thing to work on. So, for example, the SDR manager goes and asks the SDRs, guys, we're not getting too many meetings. Like, give me your feedback. What's happening? And they're like, well, the connect rate's low. And they're like, oh my God. Okay, let me go fix that. They go on their SDR community. Guys, our connect rate's low. What do I do? Oh, have you considered buying a parallel dialer? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. They go buy the parallel dialer. They give it to the SDRs. Guys, here's a parallel dialer. This takes 2 months. They do a lot of demos. They get budget. They sell it internally. Sell the parallel dialer. They have the good intentions at heart. What happens? Give the parallel dialer to the SDRs. The SDRs are still not getting meetings. Hey guys, we're not getting a lot of meetings. What's happening? Well, our connect rates are now even lower. People aren't interested. Oh, they're not interested. Wow. How about we try email? Okay, let's try email. Our deliverability is crap. Oh my God, let me ask. Right? And like, they're just chasing their own tail. And pause for a second. If a VP of sales, forget about the SDRs, because I love SDRs with passion. I want to train them, I want to help them, I want to be successful. But every time you ask an AE, why are we not closing more deals? What are the two reasons? Either I don't have enough pipeline or the leads are shit. Do they ever say, because I don't have enough training, because I don't have the right skills, because I don't know how to sell?
I don't think so. Anybody admits their problem. They are the problem.
nobody will actually list the problem. They'll list the excuse, which is not enough leads, or the leads are crap. So I've been running SDR teams for years as an SDR agency. Every time that a VP of sales goes and asks their team, I need more leads, they come to me. Tito, we need SDR teams. I build an SDR team. I build a really good one. I send the leads. What do all the AEs say? The leads are bad. So then you need to start working on revenue operations. So now every time I send a lead to an AE, I ask him, rate the meeting, A, B, C, or D. And they start rating them. And I show my VP of sales, your team has rated my meetings 89% of the time an A or a B. So you can't tell me the leads are bad. Wow. And slowly but surely you get to the solution. I think SDR managers are managing, they're not trained managers. They're managing by asking their team, what do you need? And what they don't realize is that the SDR is not incentivized to tell you the truth, because the truth is, I'm not great at my job, I need training. And the problem is the SDR manager is not a good trainer because they never learned how to train. They don't have 15 years of experience. They were the best SDR and the boss said, we're growing fast, you're the manager now.
Tito, you won't believe it. Same thing happened with me. I think that's the first time I reached out to you. I think about 8 years ago, I said, hey, I need training. And I was coming to the US for the first time after like 10 years. And I said, I want to attend some conferences. Are there courses? And at that time, I remember you asked, hey, what's your goal? I said, I want to train myself. I want to train my team. And at that time, I looked up everywhere. There was no SDR leader course. And alternatively, I think after that, I had to find a mentor somewhere in the US, pay them by the hour, and they trained me. That's how I got trained. But again, I was lucky. Probably I was working in a company where my company said, okay, we'll give you the budget, you get trained. But today, you're right. I think that's what happens. Nobody gets trained. So yeah, please go on. I think I can totally agree with what you said.
Yeah, and like, not only is nobody getting trained, but now we're working remote. So when we're working remote and you ask the CEO, it's like, hey, why's the SDR team not doing well? The manager is like, well, we're putting the effort, but we're not getting results. Okay, why? It's always the deliverability or the connect rate, and that's incorrect. It's the quality of the emails, the quality of the responses, it's the quality of the calls, is the quality of objection handling. Like, I kid you not, I have a piece of software now that I connect to your Outreach or SalesLoft, and I can tell you what's the average time to reply for your SDRs. So every time you send a sequence email and an email comes in, prospect replies, on average, how long does your team take to reply for the times that they replied?
That's amazing.
And what I've seen is some reps, at least the low performing reps, sometimes are taking 6 hours on average to reply. That's
like
insane.
Prospect replied and they haven't got back to them?
Correct. And literally, I go inspect with my client. I just did this with somebody. I'm not going to name the organization because I don't want to put them on the spot. But like I said, why don't we review a few emails together just so I can show you what's in here? And we started reviewing a couple of emails. The second email was, yeah, I love to look at a demo. That was an incoming email from a week ago, 8 days ago. No reply from the SDR. They missed it.
Can I confess? It happened with me recently because we were trying a new system. And I'm not going to name the system, but it happened with me too. And I can imagine, if it can happen with me after having years of experience, it can happen with I can't even imagine the scale at which it's happening probably with the bigger SDR orgs.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't know, right? Like, there's a lot of skeletons in the closet.
What else can your system find out?
All sorts of things. What are your trends for bounce rate? And we see these things where this happens all the time. Hey, our bounce rate is high. Oh, okay. Ask the manager. What do we need to do? Oh, we need a new data provider. You're like, are you sure? They're like, yes, we need better data. That's it. Raul, what else could it be?
I don't know. There could be many things that I'm thinking of. I mean, I know organizations, again, I'm not going to name them, like billion-dollar organization where they're still relying on their original domain. That could be one from where I'm thinking out loud. I'm not sure if that's what you detect as well, or if that might be, what, that's basic, Rahul. That's supposed to be there.
Yeah, I'm actually against that. No, I don't think it's the domain. I think you should only use your primary domain for emails. Anybody who's spraying and praying and buying hundreds of domains is doing it wrong, at least for the enterprise. If you sell SMB, that's fine. But I only
Okay.
do enterprise. So it's not the
Hmm.
domain, but the bounce rate is high.
Hmm.
What else do you think it is? If it's not we can assume it could be the data provider. They're using Zoom Info.
I don't know. Verified emails. Are emails verified?
They use the only thing I know as a manager is we use Zoom Info. That's why my SDRs use all day.
Okay, because when I was a leader, I used to have a different tool which would verify, even though I have three data providers, they will all go through a email verifier. And this used to be back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And that will have an extra layer. This is something which I learned from all the, Jesse Roulette says the same thing. You have to have another layer. So I used to have that, and I think that used to increase my deliverability and obviously
I
reduce
want
the
to check
bounce rate.
that. Like, imagine you're an outreach or sales loft, one of
Sure.
these tools. Like, you have Zoom Info, and you're gonna now grab every lead from Zoom Info and put it on a email verifier, like Never Bounce or something.
No, I mean, I mean, okay, I'm assuming that there has been few checks in place. Like, these are my exact ICPs. I'm not reaching out to everybody. So if I'm reaching out to, let's say, sales leader, let's say director of sales. So all of these are director of sales and not say sales director, because they could also mean different things. And sometimes SDRs kind of miss that because they don't know the difference.
Yeah. You know what? You know what actually happens?
Hmm.
What I find very common when there's a bounce spike is because people are throwing like a lunch or a conference, or there's been recent territory changes. And when you look at your bounce rate on step one of the sequence is always the highest. Because if somebody got to the step two or step three, the email was just attempted. So the bounce rate spikes every time you upload leads. So if you upload a lot of leads, it will bounce at a higher rate.
Ah, I never thought about that.
Correct. But also, people is not only don't think about that. People don't even think about checking the data of at what step of the sequence are we bouncing, or
Hmm.
how are the uploads correlated to the bounce. The other thing that happens is, imagine a big organization, your IBM,
Sure.
and the team says, "Guys, we have an event in California. We're gonna organize, a DJ and a party. We want to invite all of the prospects there." So what do the SDRs do? They go in CRM, find every prospect that is in California, and put them into a sequence. They don't validate the email, you're correct, but they don't have a workflow to validate the email. It's revenue operations that was validating the emails. So now bounce rate spikes. What happens? A couple of people get banned. What happens? Your email reputation's worse. What happens? You stop landing into the main inbox, you start landing in spam. What happens? That gets your open rate and reply rate lower. That makes your email deliverability even worse. It's a downward spiral. You make a couple of mistakes and everything crashes. And there's ways to fix it. And that's what my tool does. It finds the problem and it fixes the problems. But the problem is that they're not looking at the data. I'll give you another one. My connect rate's low. What would you look at? What could it be?
Data.
Data. That's what everybody says. Data. So we're using Zoom Info, connect rate's low. What do we need to do? We got to change. We're going to go to Lead IQ. You go to Lead IQ. You come back. Guess what? The connect rate is still low. What would you ask? What would you look at?
So I typically look at one thing. I remember this is something which you start looking at it when the first time I got Outreach. Outreach gives you these heat maps. Like, are people even calling at the right hours? Assuming my data is correct, assuming I'm trusting my data, first thing I will look at is, are my people making the calls when they're supposed to? Because if the last 3 month data tells me that, my connect rate is highest between 11 p.m. and 12 p.m., 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., why is everybody calling at, let's say, 8 a.m., as an example?
No.
That could be another thing I can look at.
Could be one. What else? There's
Are they calling?
at least 15 of these. So
Wow.
you have 14 left.
Are they calling the right people?
But that won't necessarily affect the connect rate. If they pick up, they pick up. If they don't pick up, they don't pick up.
Okay, this is another one. I found this a while back. I found out that just like for emails, you need to have some sort of warm up, like you need to play slow. And because these people are calling using VoIP, there's a possibility that this number is already marked as spam, and they are just is that could that be one of them?
Yeah, correct. Is a phone number marked as spam?
Yeah,
Let's
I
take
learned this
a
the
look
hard
at this.
way. Tell us the remaining 13.
I'll give you a few.
Okay.
Have you looked at your connect rate by sequence? Do you
No.
think that your MQLs have the same connect rate as your cold outbound? Do you think your post conference show have the same connect rate as your cold outbound? They don't. Have you looked at the step of the sequence? How's our connect rate on step 1, which is a call, versus step 4, versus step 11, versus step 27? Should there be a moment where we cut off and we just stop dialing? Because at step 389 of the sequence, on day 4,382, guess what
Hmm.
happened? That person does no longer work at the same company, doesn't have the same phone. Number 3, have you validated that the people you're calling still work at the same company on LinkedIn?
I was about to say that because that's a grave mistake. Because if you look at most of the outreach and sales loft, every SDR would have at least 500 activities which are pending, and most of the time they would either just mark them as completed or just move them to the next step. And sometimes there's so much delay, and that could happen. Like you said, people moved.
Correct. That's another one. How overdue are your tasks? If your tasks are overdue by more than 3 months, goodbye lead. Just take it out, because people change jobs on average every 2 years. And if your task is overdue by 6 months, 25% of the people you're about to call no longer have the job. So even if you connect, it might not even be relevant. Maybe they switch companies, maybe they switch departments. It might be something else, right? Um, there's all these nuances. Also, outreach does have, for example, the heat map, but the heat map is based on the hour that you are calling, not the
Hmm.
hour that you're calling into. So if I am dialing from Miami, Florida into Germany, outreach says it's 9:30 in the morning, but truly in Germany it's
Hmm.
3:30 in the afternoon. So is the connect rate that they're going to report based on 9:30 in the morning or on 3:30 in the afternoon Germany time?
Yeah, outreach does not tell you what
California.
is the best time for you to connect with your prospects in Pacific versus Eastern versus so on.
Correct. So there should be a filter. Can I see my California connect rate, right? Or PST connect rate, MST connect rate, Central connect rate, Eastern connect rate, European time connect rate. Like, I just want to know at what time should I call every time zone? And guess what? In Europe, the working hours are a little bit different than in the US. So 9 a.m. California versus 9 a.m. New York versus 9 a.m. Germany, the connect rate is going to be different. So I don't want you to aggregate all
Hmm.
that data and tell me 9 a.m. local time is the best time to call. I want to know, how is the pickup in Germany at their 9 a.m.?
Wow. And I'm
And
assuming.
let's go back to this idea of the manager. I want to make this valuable for the listeners, right? Sometimes most not sometimes most of the times a manager hears my connect rate's low and they have only two solutions. Either I'm going to change data providers, which inevitably will get back to, it didn't really get a lot better. It might have gone worse. It might have stayed somewhat the same. But if you're using something like Lead IQ or Zoom Info, you have one of the best. If you're using Seamless AI or Apollo, there are data quality problems already. Apollo is now kicked out of LinkedIn. They're suffering. They can't scrape the data, blah, blah, blah. But Zoom Info or Lead IQ, those are the two best. Switching your data provider is not going to fix it, not for email, not for phone, right? And using a power dialer or a parallel dialer can help you have more conversations, but it won't improve the connect rate. If anything, it will take it down because you're dialing too many times. And you can make so many dials that now you need to increase the number of steps in your sequences. As you increase the number of steps, the connect rate goes down. So what you need to start looking at is, what's the connect rate by time zone? What's the connect rate by sequence? What's the connect rate by sequence step? What's the connect rate by telephone number that you are using? Am I using local dial? Am I using a foreign phone number? If I buy a phone number from Wisconsin and I call into New York. How does it connect right there? How about I have a New York phone number calling into Wisconsin? Are people even figuring out where do people pick up from the most? Can you look at all the phone numbers you've used and see what their connect rate is? If you start looking at all these data points, you start finding outliers.
Yeah.
Wow, I got a dial out of Alaska, because when I dial out of Alaska, people's phone numbers, it says Alaska, and everybody's like, Alaska? There's gonna be a sales guy, right? And they pick up, hello, hey, this is Raul calling. It works. What works? And what works now is not gonna work in 6 months, right? Do you remember, Raul? You remember when we used to call and we're like, hey, Raul, this is Tito, man. I hope you're staying safe. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it worked really well in March and in April 2020. How about in July 2020?
Nobody cared.
Not only nobody cared, people got pissed.
Yeah.
Fuck you woke asshole. What?
People only had empathy for just 2 months.
Yeah.
Then they lost it.
It was done. It's like, this is old news. And now you pretending to be empathetic, like, just that's fake. Fuck you. People didn't like them. So you're going to be looking at this data all the time. All the time. And you have a few options. You either have an incredible revenue operations department that is constantly pushing your data out of, let's say, your outreach or Salesforce or whatever is into a data warehouse. They're analyzing it. They're figuring out exactly what's happening. They're sending you alerts. They're letting you know. They're improving your sequences. And if you don't have that, you're going to use Excel sheets, or you're going to call me, because I'm a tool that does that, right? It's going to analyze your data. It's going to tell you what to do. But I think that's where you gain an edge, by inspecting what is it that improves connect rate? What is it that improves deliverability? And even your opener. Somebody says, hi, this is Jack. How do you start the call? Jack, my name is Tito. I work at XYZ company. How are you doing? Like, most people say,
Are you telling me you're able to track this too?
Of course. I know what type of opener works better with every persona.
Wow. Like, walk me through. Like, I'm intrigued. Like, I mean, I don't want to get into the specific and technicality, but what I want to understand is, because when I'm calling, let's say through outreach, there's a recording. Are you listening to the recording? I'm guessing with AI now, and probably correlating that.
I would tell you my secret sauce, but that's like me going to a company and asking them for their source code.
No, I'm just trying to understand. Okay, again, I don't mean to pry, or I don't mean
I'll give you the mindset, but
Sure.
yes, in short, what we're able to understand is when a prospect picks up the phone, what is the phrase that you use to open the call?
Wow.
We call it the opener, right? And we don't just base it off of like, is there a response, and what is the sentiment of the response? We could analyze all sorts of like, yeah, sure, I have time, or like, I'm doing okay. We also analyze if you get to the next part, which is, did you get to pitch? Did you get to saying your value proposition? I'm calling because, or I'm reaching out, or hey, you might have heard about us from, like, if you get to do the pitch, then we know what the conversion is. And sometimes I look at a team and I start looking at their data. We ingest all their calls, we start analyzing them. And the team averages 60% of the calls that pick up get to an elevator pitch. But then you start looking at rep by rep by rep. And there's some reps at 70, 80, maybe one in high 80s. And there's somebody that's in the 20s. And the majority are in the 50, 60. And then you go listen to the guy that's in the 20s. And you listen to the call, and he's saying all the same things as the other guys.
Yeah.
And you know what's happening? It's not what he says. If you look at the transcript, it looks exactly the same. It's the tone of voice. Hi, Raul. This is Jack. I'm calling from XYZ company. Hey, buddy, just a quick question. Click. While the other guy's like, hey, Raul, this is Tito from XYZ company. Hey, just hoping to speak with you briefly. Quick question for you. Is that okay? Like, whatever it might be, whatever the opener might be. There's all sorts of trains of thoughts. There are all sorts of gurus that will tell you what your opener has to be. I'm indifferent. You can test whatever you want. I just want to show you the data. What is working? And then what you're going to be able to do is look at your team average, look at the positive outliers and the negative outliers. And you only need to listen to the outliers. You're going to go listen to the negative outlier and compare them to your average. And if you don't know what's different, just go listen to the average. And then go listen to the positive outliers. What are they doing? Compare that to your average. What that allows you to do is every negative outlier, bring it up to the average. Every positive outlier, try to extract their insight and make it a best practice. Elevate everybody. If you do this consistently across every phone call, every email, every sequence, every step, every phone number you buy, every overdue task, voicemails, you're going to win. You're going to be 5% better every week across 20 parameters. Next week, better. Next week, better. Next week, better. You don't need to do a million calls.
And I'm putting my SDR manager hat, and I'm confessing it to you. I think when I was a leader, I thought I knew, but based on what you're telling me, I don't think so. I probably knew shit. Because if somebody would ask me, hey, if you can tell me why is rep A better than rep B, besides the obvious things like somebody making more dials, and in some cases they will be both making the same dial at the same hour, it was almost impossible for anybody to do it. And I don't think so unless you told me this is possible. I don't know how other SDR leaders are even doing it. So do you mind maybe sharing how, without all of the things which you just said, how are people even finding this out? Or because I've never heard of what you said.
I mean, remember where we started this conversation? You said, Tito, all these SDR teams are failing. Why are they failing? 95% of teams don't look at their data in the way that they need to look at their data. They're struggling with it. They don't have the tools. They don't have the ability to analyze. They're not data driven. So they're hurting. And Raul, seems like I lost you here. Well, we'll see if he comes back. It seems like his lights went off. Maybe his internet went out as well. But here's what I encourage people to do, right? I actually run on an outreach or a sales loft. If you have 10 SDRs and 10 sequences, I will run 570 different checks. Those checks are analyzing the calls, the emails, the calls by connect rate, the calls by connect to meeting, the email deliverability. We're looking at the voicemails. We're looking at the length of the calls, what times the calls are being placed, into what time zones, from what phone number. We're looking at all sorts of different things. And what we do is we surface back to you what are the most important things that you can go work on as a team, as a manager, as a RevOps leader, as a VP. Even for the marketing department, what are the sequences that are working better? Where are we finding the most positive replies, the most negative replies? Just so that every time you keep analyzing your data, you can start understanding like what pieces of your campaigns are working well and what pieces of those campaigns are really not working well. And if they are not working well, we got to bring them back to average. And if they're working really well, we got to get more people using it. I'll tell you guys this too. I recently worked with a company that they told me they had thousands of sequences, I think 4,000 of them. And they said, we have a big project. Our big project is to revamp all our sequences and make them better. I said, okay, how are you going to do that? They're like, well, we're halfway done. And I said, show me. Let's look at your data. They connected their outreach into our application. We started looking at all their sequences. And the shocking part, we found their top 20 templates, the ones that had the highest efficiency. Now, what that means is how many emails are you sending in order to get a positive response back? Out of the top 20, their 20 best that they had decided to turn off or delete 18 of them because they didn't know what was working. They just read the email and they're like, I don't like this. This needs to be improved. This needs to be changed. Based on pure feeling or sentiment of the new leader. Like, people aren't necessarily using the data that they're collecting to become better. That's insane to me. Imagine being a coach of a basketball team and you're like, hey, who's our best passer? Hey, what's our best play? Hey, When we shoot from 3, what's our 3-point conversion? Okay, now can you show me the 3-point conversion by area of the court? How about shoot shots that are like more than past half court? How often do we make those? How about the ones that are right on the edge? How about from straight center to the rim, right? Versus 20 degrees to the other side. How about if you're a right-hander? How about left-hand? Like, analyze
The height and so many things, yeah.
That's what you're gonna learn. Like, do I need to drive? How often do I get fouled? Who gets fouled? Can we analyze the height of our player, the position of the player, who are they facing, and how often they get fouled? Do our small guys get fouled against the big guys? How often? How often do we score with how many seconds left in the clock? How many types of plays do we try to build on every possession? How many passes? Who's our best passer? Like, come on, guys. I'm talking about basic math. If you are a basketball coach and you show up and you're like, who's my best rebounder? Like, just basic. Who's my best rebounder? Imagine the team said, we don't know. What's our field goal percentage? We don't know. How about free throw? We don't know. How many passes do we make per game? We don't know. Who's our best passer? We don't know. Coach, go improve the team. How are you going to improve the team? You don't even know what to coach on. Ideally, not only do you have your data, you have the data of the other parties. How do we compare to every other NBA team? Are we the worst in the league in passing? Are we the best? Are we about average? How about three-pointers? How about dunks? How about this? How about that? Once you start understanding where you're strong, where you're weak, then you can analyze your players. Which of my players are good at phone calls versus emails versus LinkedIn? Who is putting a lot of effort? Who's good at what? What are their backgrounds? What are their personalities? Let's improve ourselves by understanding our data. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful for a lot of people. I think I lost Raul.
No, I'm back.
Find me on LinkedIn if you want to get more information, if you want to talk more about data, about how to think about improving your sales development. I think the pendulum is going to swing back. We went from, SDR's team operating at a healthy cadence on sequences to moving towards the volume way. Everybody is looking at how do we spray and pray more? How do we blast more emails? Everybody knows about inbox rotation and creating hundreds of inboxes. But guys, the time of AI is also here for the prospect. I now have a filter in my email. And if you look at tools like Superhuman, every time you get a pitch, it will label it as a pitch. Every inbound email, it will analyze the type of email you're getting, and it will classify it as pitch.
Tito, are you able to see me?
Wow. So if you're just blasting these emails left and right, you're going to lose. You need to understand which of your emails has the highest effectiveness, which of your calls has the highest effectiveness. How about your LinkedIn steps? All that stuff. So pleasure to meet you guys. I'm Tito Bohrt. I'm with AltiSales. You can find our tool on altisales.io. Follow me on LinkedIn. I write a lot about sales development. It's been a pleasure. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Bye. Oh, gosh.
I'm Rahul, this is Sales Spin. Outbound is not something I do, it's what I breathe. I run School of SDR. We have trained reps now placed across 50 plus SaaS companies, and I'm the guy founders call when they want to build SDR teams that actually work. KK, Payoneer, Epicor, the list is long, the work is real. I also built Blue, an AI coach for reps, because no one else got it right. I sell, I train, I build every single day. This show is not for everyone. It's for the ones still on the phones, still writing cold emails, still figuring out how to hit quota in a system that's broken. You will hear from reps and leaders who are actually doing it, and leaders who have actually been in the seat, not just behind a dashboard. No fluff, no guru talk, just the truth and the tactics. Let's break Outbound open and spin it our way.